Hi, it's Andrea again with Conscious Connections, and welcome back, and thanks for keeping in touch. Today we have a likely unexpected, fun-filled show with Annette Parker from Subtle Energies. Welcome, my beautiful friend.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So today, at least we think, we're going to start today's show about, we talked last night about perception.
Yes.
Kind of the lens through which we see the world. And for those of you, if you've never tuned in before, just a couple of quick things. There are frequencies playing in the background, right, Chris? We're checking. Those frequencies are part of what we do, and so they are intentionally there. And each show is about talking about consciousness, love, or various topics. About sharing the journey. And when we met a couple of months ago, this was one of the topics Annette seemed pretty excited about. So I thought we'd get her on the show today to talk about perception. But before we do that,
Okay.
I want you to just share with those of you who have not connected with you before. I don't know what feels right for you, who you are, what you do in this life. Your journey a bit. Let's start there, and then we'll get into how that ties into. I know
That could take.
I know that could take an hour.
We
We don't have that long. So I don't know. Let's start. Whatever feels right for you. Like, where do you want to leap into in this life for you?
Where do I want to leap into?
What do you want people to know about you?
Somehow what's come into my mind is knowing a little bit about my past. The work that I do now with the technology is transforming people's lives through energy, right? And working with coaching and assisting people. And I found myself, when I went through different journeys and different things and different stages of my life, that a lot of times when I was talking to people, they didn't understand, or I didn't feel they would understand. Like, how could you know what I'm going through if you haven't actually experienced this? How could you know? Like, you haven't walked a mile in my shoe. But with the different life experiences that I've had, I feel that no matter what journey or path you're walking, I may not have walked a mile in your shoes or a mile in your moccasins, but I have walked the path. In one form or another, I can identify with pretty well anything that anybody's going through. I remember one time Bill questioned me, well, what about this and what about that? And I was able to come up with answers like this because of my path has been very colorful, let's say.
That's what I said. Today's show could be colorful.
Very colorful.
Yeah.
And some people, like when I tell my story, they'll go, wow, you've had such a rough life. And at one point, I actually felt that way too. It's like, oh, poor me. You know, why did this happen to me? Why did I get beaten as a child? Why did I have to go into, you know, the different back alleys? And I won't go into too much detail.
You can as much as you want.
Yeah, well, no, this is going to be live, so I want to keep some of it quiet. You want to find out more, talk to me in person.
Back alleys, kind of all interesting colors of life, one might say.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I looked at that and it was like, wow, what a rough life. But now I look at it and I think, no, all of that happened for a reason. It's to bring me to the point that I am now, so that I'm able to assist people in transforming their lives.
Or connect with people.
And connecting with them.
Really connect with them. Yeah.
Connect with them on a soul level.
Yeah.
Connect with them on a soul level. And even if they're not consciously aware that they're connecting on a soul level, to be able to contact or connect with their ego even.
Yeah.
Right, so that we can get past that, get past the ego and into the soul and into the heart, so that they're able to love themselves as much as I love them.
So that's pretty cool, because you used a very interesting perception, because today's show, right, felt like we were going to talk about perception, the lens through which we see the world, right? So many of us have stories, right, about our lives. Right, and I know many of the details of your life prior to meeting you, and you're right. If you were to sit in the poor me story, which is a perception, right? So the poor me, I'm going to make this simple because this one I actually don't know, but let's just assume that your father beat you. Now you have many examples of different things. But if we're all stuck in that one perception that that's a bad experience, right? What I've observed is that story tends to hold us in the negative or the bad
Stuck.
or whatever that stuck is. So what I'd love you to elaborate on a little bit is your observation of the transition from I had a bad life to realizing that it's not a bad life, it's an experience or a perception. Or what does that mean for you when we say looking at it through a different lens?
Wow, you're really making me think.
No thinking.
Yeah.
Just wing it.
Just wing it. Well, trust me, I am.
That's the best part.
Looking at the perception, when I look at my life,
Yeah.
and look at where I've been and where I come from, so to speak, and seeing the stories, like I've always known that there was something different about me. I always knew that, but I didn't quite understand it, because the perception of my mother's upbringing and the family unit aspect
Yep.
said that what it was that I did was devil's work. So I was taught and led to believe that what I felt was what I had passion for and that I felt was very helpful was wrong. So I had a difficulty in understanding when I was growing up the difference between right and wrong. And looking back at it now from where I am today, I realize it's the perception of my family unit that made me believe that.
So it's the lens they saw
And taught me.
and taught you and imposed upon you.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. We've all had reflections of that in our lives. Yeah.
Then looking at that now from this point of view, where I am today on my journey and at this moment, is that was necessary so that I could be where I am today, so I could experience those experiences, so I could understand the differences and be able to see it. And the great thing is that through whatever I've been through and the different journeys that I've taken and different modalities and programs and all that stuff, is it's allowed me to be able to look at it in a different way. So coming at it from a different angle, because I was taught you go this way, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and I was always like, well, no, I want to do it this way. I don't want to follow that path. You come to the fork of the road, and it's like, okay, I'm not going down the fork. I'm going right down the center. Let's see where that one goes. Let's make our own path. And going through that is changing the perception of society and the perception of the family. You know, because the family unit we have, and it's the generations that have been coming from generation to generation. My mother was taught from her mother was taught, and so on and so on and so on. And breaking that circle, taking that circle and breaking it, and having those people come into my life to assist me in seeing that there was a different way.
So what you're saying, and I like it, is when we talk about perception, our families have a lens through which they see the world. And so when we are going out into the world, we have automatically been, the word I would use is transposed that perception, right, upon ourselves, and we go out and we're looking through with the same set of glasses. But sometimes we want to change the set of glasses, or widen the set of glasses, or
Let's take them out, throw them away.
I totally saw you saying that.
Yeah.
Or take those bastards off and out they go, right?
Yeah.
And
needs
when
glasses?
we talk about that perception, I think it's important because there's resistance in some, likely many who are listening, to throw the glasses away or to widen the glasses. Like, you know, I meet some like you that are willing to literally take the glasses and throw them on Bay Street. Other people just want to change the color of the lens or the size of their lens, right? So that they're beginning to see things differently. I think you can choose the rate at which you want to change your
Yes.
perception.
Yes.
So when you look back at that, why would you tell somebody to even do that? Like, why would you say to somebody, why would you want to see things differently? Why would I want to look at it through a different perception? Why did you choose it?
Because if we're not willing to change, we're not willing to grow. And if I want to stay stuck in where I'm at, you know, and just go every day the same thing, get up every morning, have the bowl of cereal, get on the bus or the train and go to work and do the same mindless job, come home at night, that's boring. Like I've done that, been there, done that, right?
I got
And
the
it's like,
passport stamp, I say.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and I knew that there was something more. And I've always been like kind of over here and over there, and Like my mom used to say to me when I was a kid, she goes, "You never finish anything you start."
I know, don't you love that line?
No.
That's a lens.
Yeah.
But that's a lens,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
we must complete what we start. That's just a lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, never finish anything you start. Well, no, because it's like, yeah, okay, I do that. Well, that doesn't interest me. Let's check out this. Oh, there's something shiny over there, and head over there. Oh, what makes it shiny? What's and doing the change, because change I find is, again, to do with perception, is change is really difficult. You know, it can be if we choose to take that story. That change is difficult.
Yes,
But
that's another lens.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
and that's where, you know, like I have found that often it was like difficult, but once I had processed through that change, it's like, man, that wasn't so bad, because my perception was that it was going to be difficult,
Yeah.
and instead of just going with the flow. And what I've been really noticing lately is staying in the moment. Because when things are happening in my life and I start looking at it with the glasses and like, where is this going to lead? Where is this going to take me? And then that's usually when things start really messing up in my life,
Right.
and I get it confused, and I, you know, fall back into those old stories, and it's like, yeah. But when I bring myself back just to the moment and staying right here, right now, and enjoying this, and not worrying about what happened, the old patterns, the old stories, not bringing them forward with me to go forward into possibly doing what the path has been before, and staying in the now and going with the flow. You know, you don't need glasses, because you can see what's right in front of you. Often, like I can't see this, I would need glasses for this.
Yeah.
I can't see out there because I need glasses for that, literally. But but I can see you very clearly,
Right.
you know, because you're right in front of me. You're not here in front of me because that's too close, but you're enough distance away that I'm in the moment, in this space. So for me, being in the moment is not necessarily this close, but being within my field and paying attention to that, and just having that visual, you know, without the glasses, either way, physically or manifestably.
Interesting. And so what you're saying is that you've been able to transition in over this lifetime from a number of experiences that the average bear, I would say, would perceive as bad experiences in a lifetime, right? Rough, challenging, suppressive, all those negative things that people use. And you've somehow been able to transition over time into settling into your own skin, living in the moment and perceiving life through a very different lens. Yeah.
Or no lens.
Or
Just
no
a-
lens.
no
Yeah.
lens, you
It's
know.
funny, I was contemplating that when you say,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if there's a no lens. I love, we can play with that. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Right? I've never contemplated when you're living in the now, if there's no lens whatsoever.
I don't think there is, because when I put my perceptions come from the stories and the belief systems, and that's when I have the glasses on. When I take the glasses off, that's when I'm in the moment. Because if I want to read, yeah,
interesting.
because if I want to read a book, I literally physically have to put on glasses because I can't see here. And if I want to drive, I need to physically put on glasses to see forward. But like I says, I don't need glasses to be with you right now. You know, to see, if I actually put my glasses on right now, I wouldn't see you as clear as I am with my normal eyes.
Right.
So living in the moment for me anyways is definitely living without glasses, because when I don't have, because I'm living
That's
in the now, I'm
interesting.
living with the flow. You know, there's no story, there's no belief, there's just being right here in the moment, in the now, and following what's in my heart that goes forward. And then when I walk, you know, if I'm driving someplace and I need to see a little bit further, then I need to put a pair of glasses on to see what's ahead. But then again, too, with the perception aspect, if I put those glasses on, it's which color and which lens do I choose to put on?
Yeah.
You know, and the glasses that to go forward are usually one for clarity, you know, going forward, because I can set a plan, but that plan never, like today coming here, we got to leave at 8 o'clock. We got to be here at a certain time. We're going to hit traffic. We got here an hour early. Like that's just coming to Toronto in the morning is like unheard of from Waterloo, right? But it was awesome.
But it all flowed beautifully.
Exactly, you know, just
So-
trusting.
So I was going to say, give me an example of flow, and this morning might be one of them. That's interesting, but maybe there's others that we want to play, because some of our viewers or listeners, depending on whether you're watching the video or listening to the podcast, may not understand the concept of flow. So let's take this morning.
Okay.
When you made the decision to come at 8 a.m., was it through the lens that you had to be on time, that there would be Toronto traffic? Or is it more from, I just felt like I needed to leave at 8 a.m.?
More, it was actually because I know my schedule. My schedule was to leave at 7:30 so that I would actually be leaving Waterloo by 8, because I know how I flow, as I go quite a bit in the flow, and I'm not one of these people that's on time all the time. And you know, I kind of give myself that buffer because I never know what's going to happen. And this morning was a great example if I told you what happened, but that'd be another half hour. Coffee all over the kitchen. But for me, it was the lens of, yeah, there's going to be traffic. There's the rush hour traffic that, you know, there's always a backup. You got to take that into consideration. You know, you don't know what's going to happen with the vehicle. How cold is it going to be? What's the weather going to be like? So my plan was to leave by 8 so that...
I like the use of the word plan.
Yeah.
Because that's not flow, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's an example.
Yeah, that was the plan, to leave, because we never know what's going to be there. So giving myself that little bit of a buffer. And then before getting into the vehicle, asking for guidance and protection and trust and being grounded. That is one of the biggest things I've really been playing with lately, is really finding the difference of when I'm grounded, I can go with the flow. When I'm ungrounded, everything just kind of doesn't flow, because that's where glasses seem to be on. I don't know why, but it does seem to be that way. And then when we got here, the traffic was just fine. There was a little bit of an accident. It must have just happened minutes before we got there, so there was no backup. And following the GPS, and it took us here, and we were like an hour early.
Yeah.
So that was going, you know, so the original plan was with the glasses, and because of the perception of what Toronto traffic is like.
And then it all worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Because of trust.
So what does following flow mean to you? Do you have an example of what flow versus not flowing means?
Oh, yeah, sure. Easy.
think-
Christmas.
Christmas! Okay.
The month of December, there's been a lot of changes in my life in the last 3 months, and there are a lot of new things. So I had been living literally in the flow, going moment to moment and just trusting and going forward. And then something happened that it's like, okay, because of the perception that, you know, you have to make sure the bills are, I impulsively purchased a vehicle. And then I thought afterwards going, how am I going to pay for this? So then picking up a new job, something that's completely out of my field, right? Not doing anything but just to have that money coming in to cover those expenses. But that took a bit of a pressure off of me.
I agree.
Right? Took the pressure off. But then I found that it had really it broke my flow, because I had a flow, I had things I was just kind of going, and now it's like, now I have to be someplace 3 times a week at a certain time, you know, and it's really difficult for me to get on to work on time. It is. But it got me to the point where I literally, what I call decompressed. You know, I imploded and had to decompress, where I literally shut myself off from the world for a day and processed what was going on, and was able to, I needed that day to do that so that I could really see the patterns, that I could see where the belief systems and where I wasn't in the flow and what was happening, to release that and say, okay, this I need to make differently. You know, not so much change, but I need to do it differently. And then investigating a little bit and bringing myself back to the now, because I was in the back here, and I was also going forward, and how is this going to work, and started playing stories in my head, and if I do this, this is going to happen, and if I do this, this is going to happen, and I can't. And when I brought it back and just said, yeah, this is what I need to do, and then sharing with some other people, made me realize that, going with the flow is literally trusting in my higher self, trusting in myself.
Yes.
You know, and
the person that's here.
Yeah. And really, it comes also down to control.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally.
You know,
flow and control are like the freaking opposites of each other.
But they're also the same.
Oh.
Because.
Why do you see that?
Because, they are, because if we don't have control. Right? We don't have the control. So when we release the control, then we have the flow. So I guess, so they are opposite,
I see what
but they
you're saying.
have to be together, because we have to release it. Everybody, we've been taught from our stories that
the lens we see through the world is control.
Yes.
That's totally true.
Yeah, you know, we've
got to plan everything. We got to, you know, we have certain targets we must meet. There are certain, yeah.
Yeah, and like with working for somebody else like that, I haven't worked for somebody else in a long time, and now they have control because you have to be there at a certain time, you have to work at a certain time, and then scheduling things, like even scheduling my clients in between this job, has been really difficult because it's like, okay, you know, your hour's up. I'm not one of these people when you come for an appointment that you got an hour and an hour you're out the door. I just can't do that. I'm not like that. I don't like people
Flow
that,
with it.
yeah, I flow with it. But now it's like, okay, you have to go because I've got somewhere else to go. So I don't, and that flow wasn't there, and it actually stifled me. Like it made me almost stop to a point of a place that it took me to a place I didn't like, that I've been to before and didn't want to go back there. You know, I kind of left that life behind. It's like, no, that's made me realize that living in the flow is a lot nicer than
It's a lot
living
more
in
enjoyable
than living in control.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and releasing that control.
Yeah. So it's interesting because for those of you that have not experimented before with living in the flow or letting it flow, it feels like, only because of my background, I totally get it. I used to work on Bay Street. Control was my middle name, right? So Andrea Control. So that can also bring up a ton of fear,
Yes.
right? Of letting go. And so what I want to do then is, so we met through the tools that the frequencies were playing in the background, the instruments that are on every show and so on. So we met through that 2 years ago, I think, this April.
That's right.
And so how, when you look back at the last 2 years, how would you tie the using of those tools to assisting in getting you to this state of, I mean, you've talked about living in flow, letting go of control, beliefs, trusting yourself, some really big things, right? I mean, the average bear would say, let's chew one of those at a time. You chose to chew all of them.
And then some.
And then some. Yeah, we don't get the whole basket today. We'll have to bring you back for that, which I'm up for. So how do you tie having Bill or I or the instruments or this last 2 years into being able to step into that flow? And why would you choose it in retrospect?
I'm going to start with the tones, because when I first met you, that was the first thing I did. We did a group session, and then I got the tones. And I remember saying, when you said, well, sit and listen to these for 24 minutes a day or 32 minutes
Your
a day.
personal frequencies, we call them.
Yeah, the personal frequencies.
Personal tones from the voice.
It's like, I don't have 30 minutes a day to sit down and listen to. I'm sorry, I'm just too
That was
busy.
me too, sister, the first time I got 'em.
Yeah, it's like, I can't do this.
I don't do 30 minutes sitting still.
Yeah, exactly.
that was me.
I've got too much to do. I got this to do. I got, yeah, da, 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 da. But what I did is I just played them in the background, right? And I played them while I was doing my emails in the morning. And I just had them playing, and it drove my kids nuts too, because I'd come
Mine too.
I'd come home and I'd put on the CD player and they would play. But what I noticed with my personal tones in the first probably few months was, or even weeks actually, was I started looking at what I was doing. I was looking at what I was doing, like what was happening to me, and realizing what really was important.
Yep.
You know, and one of the words I used was, it gave me ambition. Right? And ambition, when I say that, was like ambition to do what? Well, I remember the one day I was sitting there and I was watching TV and I'm like, okay, this is a waste of time. I got a bunch of boxes downstairs that need to be taken out. And I took out, I had my house painted and everything went into the crawl space, and 5 years later was still in the crawl space.
Still in the crawl space. We
So
all
I-
have those areas, yep.
So I took out 5 boxes of blue jeans that I had, right? Who needs 5 boxes of blue jeans? And I really don't need all these. And I started going through the box, and I thought, okay, some will fit, some won't fit, some are good, some aren't good, donate, whatever. I ended up, out of those 5 boxes, I kept like 4 pairs, right? Because I figured if they were sitting down there for 4 years, but it gave me the ambition to do that, and starting to let things go that weren't important.
Yes.
You know, so there's a physical, or like a actual
absolutely.
material thing.
I call it, and really good, so much lighter.
Yeah, you know, and so not only in the material things have I started to let things go, and I'm still seeing that I'm letting things go.
Me
So
too.
this
Yep.
weekend I had that, is went shopping, and I'm a shopaholic, and it's like I walk into this beautiful mall and there's all these sales and bargains, and it's like, I don't need anything.
Right. The letting go of the accumulation mentality, one might say.
And
Yep.
that was like, when I realized that, it was like, wow.
That's huge.
Exactly.
Well done, hun.
And it was like,
Yeah.
you know, so it's even in the mentality and the physical, and then also in my personal stuff within my inner self, like looking at my belief systems, being able to see the glasses that I was looking at,
Yep.
you know, reading certain things and the perception about it, and questioning when I say something and go, do I really mean that? How do I really feel about? I can't think of an example.
Yeah.
Of, you know,
Yeah.
I'll use the example of the thing that's in my anything in life worth having is difficult.
I know. I remember seeing that on your wall.
Yeah.
When I first met you, and I mean, I only didn't know you very long, but I saw that on your wall, and I went, "Holy shit, that's a belief."
Yeah. You know, and then Bill actually.
Did I?
Bill,
okay.
Bill,
Because I don't think I had the nerve at that
Yeah,
point.
No, but Bill called me on that, and I kind of stopped. And that was also having the people in my life to
Yes.
make me aware.
Yes.
You know, and make me think about it. And it's like, well, I sort of did kind of believe that, you know, because it was the belief system from the parents that
Totally.
you have to work hard to get what you
Yes.
want, right? And it's like, yeah, it doesn't need to be hard. And I've seen that even in the last month.
Well done.
Different things things are like literally happening quickly, and it's just like, this is what I want, this is what I feel that I need, and it comes to me because I go with the flow.
And so what you're saying, just for those of you that are new to the instruments, is listening to your personal frequencies, which I have to say you're going to rank in the top 5 most consistent that we've met. Simply by listening to your tones, they've been stripping down the beliefs, the stories, the barriers, and providing that clearer, wider, throw me off lens, so that you've been able to shift your life to more happiness, more centeredness, and it's continuing. I mean, part of that is what you just
Not
said.
every
you walked
day,
in.
but
No, well, no. I don't know if I want it. Well, there's another one. But I believe on some level things are shifting every day.
Oh yes.
We just don't realize. Some are bigger aha moments. I've had people say, "Oh, this stuff has stopped working." I say, "Bullshit. Sorry, I'm 3.5 years into it. Bill's 6 years into it. You're almost 2 years into it. It doesn't stop.
No.
It's just that sometimes we realize more than others. But those
also-
personal frequencies are important. Go.
It's also our perception of what stopped. It is.
It
It is our perception, because we go, oh, it's not right. Because I've been there. You know, I've been there. It's like, oh, this isn't, you know. And we both know that I have quite a bit of technology at my home, and it's like, really, is this stuff doing anything anymore?
Yep.
Like, and then I started even with the tones, like listening to the tones. But then what I had to do for myself was my perception, and I thought, okay, so I was playing the tones to the technology, but I wasn't listening to it with headsets. So
Yeah.
then I started going for walks around the block and playing my tones, and I watched within a week how things started shifting again.
So you've observed, that's funny because I've not heard that many times, and Bill and I think are more delinquent, is you have found listening to them is important. I can't get the right words out.
Especially if you've been, like, if you feel it's not working anymore,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Switching it up.
Switching it up. Yeah.
Because for me personally, I find that if I start getting into a routine, it becomes normal. So then when it becomes normal, so like do something different so you get that little bit of oof again.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true. Because when, so one of the beautiful women in our circle, Deb, has taken on the task of writing some ebooks, right, around the instruments and the tones and that kind of stuff. And when I read them, I'm going to make it up, a month ago, I actually got my own. Right? So she talked about using the pocket technology in bed with you. So I started that practice, and I can see the difference. And so you've reminded me that part of the reason we're creating this community, right? Whether it be you hosting group events, or it's on Facebook, or whether it's whatever, right? We've created different forums because what you've brought up as a valid point is the journey of seeing through perception, different lenses, broadening our horizons, the journey of consciousness, we might say, never ends. And
No.
it's not boring, right? So it adds this constant growth aspect into your life, whether you choose to do it through listening, tones, doing one-on-one sessions with a coach like yourself, coming to groups, whatever that is, there's this interesting perception lens that the tools and connecting with like-minded is assisting, right? And allowing each of us to get out of that story of the lens of, oh, I had a hard life, right? I think that's a song, right? It's been a hard life. And getting out of that so that we get this opportunity to recreate, to love, to connect, right? Because that's the biggest thing I've seen in you. And so if I was going to get you to sum up, because I think we're getting close, I'd love you to sum up how you perceive your life right now and how you feel about the opportunity of the future. How does that feel for you compared to what it would have been years ago? And you can go any direction you want, but
What's come to me when you ask that question is if someone was to look at my life through glasses of, I'm going to say cloudy glasses, they would, I've had even people say this to me that, you know, how can you make a living? Like, you're not making any money, you're not, you know, you only made such and such an amount on your income tax. How do you afford the house? How do you do all this? Like, you must struggle, right?
yes, the lens of struggle.
Yeah, you
Yes.
must be struggling. You must be, you know, whatever. And they kind of feel sorry for me and they think, oh, you have to work so hard. Maybe you should follow a different route. Maybe you should be doing something different. Perhaps you should look for a job. I hate that word. I'm sorry.
Well,
You know,
because they're diatribing through their lens.
and they're
right.
stuck in their story,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Even the other day, somebody was talking and says, "Oh, it's Christmas time. Let's not talk about work." And I'm like, "Why not?
Right.
I love my job.
I love my
I
life.
love what I do.
Yeah,
Right?
There's no delineation between all of that.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, I love what I do, and that's one of the things that brings me joy. Is I love what I do. I love helping people, assisting people in changing, and I do that. And with even money's not everything.
Yeah.
You know, and that's such a big thing. I look at it, I have food on the table, I have a
Yes.
roof over my head, I have clothes on my back. My kids, you know, they
Thank
make-
God for today's show.
well,
That's
that's a different show.
Oh yeah, that's a different series. Sorry, you have all of the.
I have what is needed. You know, my wants might not be met, but my needs are met. And then when I even saying that, my wants are met.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
like really, I don't want for anything, right? I have amazing people in my life. I have people that love me. I have a vehicle that takes me, able to bring me to Toronto with no traffic.
Yoo-hoo!
You know, I have a roof over my head. The bills are getting paid. I don't have bill collectors, and somehow, some way, with faith and trust, everything gets taken care of because of being in the flow.
Yes.
And if I had the
Yes.
perception of my beliefs from, say, 2 years ago before meeting you, or even when I did meet you, the perception would be, I can't do this.
Right.
You know, like people look at my debts. Some people, when I would start talking about debts and stuff, and they go, "Oh yeah, well I owe $20,000 or I owe this." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm $170,000 in debt." And they go, "Oh," they go, "Doesn't that scare you?" I'm like, "No.
No,
Why? You know, you can't take it with you."
it's just a game.
Exactly. It's a game of life, and it's all about the perception of it.
And you've been one of my most enjoyable representations. So for those of you that want to learn more about Annette's journey, her contact info will be at the end. I'd encourage you to reach out because you are one of my best examples for people outside of Bill and I, right? To be able to show people the journey of surrender and trust and letting go. Because, you know, when we met you, I believe what you said was, I can't afford that technology, which we hear from everybody.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, I hear you, but that's just a story and that's bullshit.
Yep.
Because when each of us chooses, it may not happen tomorrow, right? It may happen 6 months or a year from now, no matter what you choose. When you let go of those limiting belief patterns, miracles do happen.
Absolutely.
And so what I've observed is these instruments and communities and those that are supporting each other through this journey of, we would say, consciousness. It is amazing what can shift. And it's the bipolar opposite of what we've been trained, for lack of a better word, to do as a society. You're right, it's the letting go of control and allowing flow. And that freaks the crap out of some people. So I say you don't need to necessarily whip the glasses off and throw them on the highway and let somebody run over them. You can choose to do it slowly, or like us, you can choose to throw a baby to the bathwater and off we go. You get the rate at which you choose, but I would encourage people to choose that journey, even if it's step by step. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing. Well, Annette will be back, I'll guarantee that. And I love you.
I love you too.
But we learned to rise. We grew overnight and joined as one. And now we